please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. Now, Israel has confirmed the identity of a hostage returned by Hamas. The remains belong to Tal Haimi, a non-commissioned officer killed on October 7, 2023, during the first day of the war. Haimi, who was 41 years old, was the commander of the Nir Yitzhak Kibbutz Defense Militia and had his body taken to Gaza after the attack. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has said that the family has been notified following the completion of the identification process. Prior to this handover, Hamas had returned 13 bodies of hostages to Israel out of the 28 it had pledged to return as part of the ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Peter Baum. He's a foreign editor at Weekly Blitz, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Peter, for staying with us. Now it seems like, as we were talking, how challenging phase one is, and what are these challenges that still remain in completion, for the completion of phase one. So part of it is, of course, the hostages returns and their remains returns as well. So how does this return of hostages remains, the problem is impacting the prospects for sustaining this ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas?
Yeah, I think everyone knows the answer to that question. You see, if Hamas release all the hostages, they lose every piece of political leverage that they have been holding for the last 2 years. The fact that the remaining hostages who were alive were returned drastically diluted the leverage that Hamas have. Now, in Israel, as you probably know, for Jewish people, it's very, very important to have the return of their deceased loved ones back to them for a funeral in accordance with the Jewish law. This has been going on in that area for nearly 5,000 years, and it's incumbent on followers of Judaism to ensure that the bodies are returned and given a decent burial. Now, until that happens, Hamas still have some leverage, albeit drastically reduced from the period that has preceded this. So Trump has been very vocal in the last 48 hours in stating that Hamas must return all the bodies. If they don't, they will be defeated militarily. I'm using kind words. Trump was using much more prettier language. But nevertheless, until, and this goes back to your previous question, until the Israeli audience, the Israeli population, are comforted in the knowledge that those dead bodies are returned to them, it is impossible, I think, to implement phase two. And if Hamas are clinging on to this last bastion of political power, it's really up to the people who are now controlling the Arab nations and non-Arab nations, non-Arab Muslim nations who are controlling the situation, such as Egypt and Turkey, who, as I said before, are the most relevant players in all this, to pressure Hamas to finally give the bodies back, and the next stage would be for them to demilitarize. Once that's done, then phase two, I think, can go ahead. But until that time, I don't see how that's possible.
And building on that, should U.S. still prioritize, or the mediating countries like you mentioned, Turkey, Egypt, should they still prioritize maintaining a fragile ceasefire or support more aggressive intervention in this conflict?
No, I think everyone is behind Trump in his analysis of the situation. He's done a remarkable job, and he's clearly stated that if Hamas continue to behave as they are behaving, they will be utterly wiped out. That's now, whether they will or not is another thing, but that's Trump's statement. So I think the other countries that you've mentioned would be fully supportive of where Trump's at. They have no interest, none of them, in seeing Hamas rearm, get stronger. They may allow them some kind of political say in the reformation of the new Gaza, but really most active players who really want to see peace in the region want to see Hamas as a non-entity. Unfortunately, Hamas are still very much in the frame and are clinging on to whatever they can in order to remain relevant. And
Yes.
I'm afraid until, as I'll say it before again, until the bodies of the dead hostages are returned and until Hamas are further demilitarized, then and only then will phase two be enabled.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, Gaza's health authorities have reported that Israeli military strikes have killed 80 people and wounded 300.